There are days that pass like any other, quiet, ordinary, unnoticed. And then, there are days that were written long before time began. Days that carry weight. Days that carry power. Days that heaven itself has circled, highlighted, and whispered about across eternity. And you didn't land here by accident. You didn't just stumble into this message while scrolling, distracted, half aware. No, something deeper pulled you in. Something unseen guided your eyes to this exact moment. Because May 31st is not just another date on a calendar, it is a divine appointment with your name on it. Listen closely now, because what is about to be revealed is not casual information. It is a spiritual interruption. Have you noticed something shifting lately? A strange restlessness in your spirit. Moments where everything feels like it's about to change, but you can't quite explain why. One minute you feel hopeful, the next uncertain. Doors that almost opened but didn't. Opportunities that felt close but slipped away. And yet deep inside, there's this unshakable feeling. Something is coming. Something bigger than what you've seen before. That feeling is not random. The tension you've been carrying, that anticipation you can't shake, that quiet voice whispering, hold on just a little longer, that is the echo of heaven preparing you. Because May 31st is a turning point. A line in the sand between what was and what is about to be. And Archangel Michael, the warrior, the protector, the one who stands at the front lines of spiritual battles, has stepped forward with a declaration that cannot be reversed, cannot be delayed, and cannot be denied. I'm opening a door no one can close. Do you understand what that means for you? This is not a motivational phrase. This is not symbolic language meant to comfort you temporarily. This is a command from the spiritual realm. A decree that overrides human decisions, cancels opposition, and bypasses every delay that has tried to hold you back. The very things that frustrated you, the rejection, the waiting, the confusion, they were never the end of your story. They were the setup. Because heaven does not move randomly. It moves with precision. And right now, something has aligned. Think about everything you've been through recently. The closed doors, the silence, the moments you questioned yourself, even questioned God. The nights where you wondered if anything would ever change. The times you felt overlooked, unseen, almost forgotten. But what if I told you those moments were not signs of abandonment? What if they were signs of preparation? Because when heaven is about to open a door that no one can close, it first separates you from the doors that were never meant to stay open. That's why things felt like they were falling apart. That's why certain people distanced themselves. That's why plans didn't work out the way you expected. It wasn't punishment. It was positioning. And now, here you are, standing on the edge of a moment that was written with your name before you were even born. You can feel it, can't you? That this is different. That this message carries weight. That something about May 31st feels appointed. Because it is. This is the moment where the waiting meets the release. Where the silence meets the answer. Where the struggle meets the shift. And Archangel Michael is not whispering this. He is declaring it with authority. The door is about to open. But here's what makes this even more powerful. This door is not like the others. It is not temporary. It is not fragile. It is not dependent on people liking you, approving of you, or supporting you. Oh, this door comes directly from heaven. And when heaven opens something, no human opinion can shut it. No jealousy can block it. No delay can reverse it. You have stepped into a prophetic moment. And the question is not whether the door will open. The question is, will you be ready to walk through it when it does? Type I am ready in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 531 is now activated around your life. There is a difference between a message that comforts and a message that commands. And what you are hearing right now does not come from imagination, emotion, or human intention. It comes from authority. It comes from a realm that does not operate by opinion, but by divine order. Because when Archangel Michael speaks, heaven is not suggesting, heaven is enforcing. And you must understand this clearly. This is why this moment feels heavier, sharper, more urgent than anything you've heard before. This is not meant to simply inspire you. This is meant to awaken you. Archangel Michael does not appear in moments of convenience. He does not step forward without reason. Throughout time, his presence has always marked one thing: intervention. Not passive observation, not distant watching, but active involvement in the affairs of those chosen for a shift. And right now, his voice is not echoing in the background. It is standing directly in front of you, cutting through confusion, silencing doubt, and demanding your attention. I'm opening a door no one can close. These are not gentle words. They carry weight. They carry finality. They carry a kind of authority that does not ask for permission from circumstances or approval from people. And this is where you must pause and truly absorb what is happening. Because if this declaration is coming from Archangel Michael, it means something has already been decided in the spiritual realm. It means a verdict has already been reached. It means what is about to unfold in your life is not up for negotiation. Have you ever noticed how certain battles in your life felt unusually intense? How some delays didn't make sense? How opposition seemed to rise out of nowhere, just when you were getting close to something meaningful? That was not random. That was resistance to something that had already been authorized over your life. Because when heaven prepares to release something irreversible, the pressure often increases before the breakthrough appears. And this is exactly why Michael has stepped in. He is not here to comfort your fear. He is here to remove it. He is not here to explain every detail. He is here to enforce what has already been written. His voice carries the sound of final decisions, the kind that cannot be undone by doubt, delayed by hesitation, or destroyed by opposition. And the moment he declares something over your life, it shifts from possibility into certainty. You may have spent time questioning whether things would ever change. You may have wondered if the doors in front of you would remain closed forever. You may have even adjusted your expectations, learning to live with less, preparing yourself for disappointment just to avoid being hurt again. But now, that entire mindset is being confronted by a higher authority. Because what Michael speaks overrides what you have experienced. Let that settle into your spirit. What you have seen is not the final version of your story. What you have felt is not the full weight of your destiny. What you have gone through does not have the authority to define what comes next. Only heaven does. And right now, heaven is speaking through a voice that does not waver, does not hesitate, and does not retract its words. This is why you feel something shifting inside you as you hear this. It is not just emotion. It is recognition. Your spirit recognizes authority when it hears it. Your spirit knows the difference between something temporary and something eternal. And this message carries eternity within it. Michael stands not just as a messenger, but as a guardian of what is being released. That means the door he is opening is not left unprotected. It is not exposed to interference. It is not vulnerable to sabotage. The same authority that opens it is the authority that defends it, and that changes everything for you. Because now, it is no longer about whether you are strong enough, ready enough, or perfect enough. It is about alignment. It is about recognizing that something greater than you has already gone ahead of you and made a way that cannot be undone. The pressure is not on you to force anything open. The responsibility is on you to trust what is being opened. And here's where many hesitate. Because when authority speaks, it often challenges what you've grown comfortable believing. It pulls you out of limitation. It confronts the quiet doubts you've been holding onto. It forces you to see beyond what has been familiar, and that can feel unsettling. But this is the moment where you must decide. Will you trust what you feel, or will you trust what has been declared? Archangel Michael is not waiting for your fear to disappear before he acts. He is acting so your fear no longer has power. And this is the shift. The door is not opening because everything around you suddenly agrees. The door is opening because heaven has decided it is time. So stand still in this moment. Let the weight of this truth settle over you. You are not listening to a possibility. You are receiving a declaration. And when a declaration comes from this level of authority, it does not return empty. Type "I trust divine authority" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 777 is now surrounding your path. There are doors in your life that opened and then quietly closed again. Doors you celebrated too early. Doors you prayed for, fought for, believed in, only to watch them slip away without explanation. You remember those moments. The excitement that quickly turned into confusion. The hope that suddenly felt misplaced. And over time, without even realizing it, you started adjusting your expectations. You began to believe that every door came with conditions, that every opportunity could be taken away, that nothing was ever truly secure. But what Archangel Michael is declaring now disrupts that entire pattern. I'm opening a door no one can close. This is not like the doors you've experienced before. This is not temporary access. This is not conditional favor. This is not something that depends on people's mood, decisions, or opinions. This is a door established by divine authority, meaning once it opens, it is not subject to human interference. And that is where its power lies. Because most of the frustration you've experienced came from doors that were influenced by people. People who changed their minds. People who withdrew support. People who didn't see your value, or worse, saw it and felt threatened by it. And because those doors were connected to human hands, they could be closed just as easily as they were opened. But this door is different. This door is not built on human approval. It is not sustained by external validation. It is not maintained by your ability to keep everything perfect. This door is rooted in something far deeper, something unshakable. It is rooted in divine timing. And when something aligns with divine timing, it cannot be undone by delay, rejection, or opposition. It doesn't matter who disagrees. It doesn't matter who tries to block it. It doesn't matter who doesn't understand it. Because once heaven establishes something, it operates outside of human limitation. This is why this moment is so critical for you to understand. Because you are not just approaching another opportunity, you are approaching permanence. And that may feel unfamiliar to you. Because you've grown used to instability. You've learned to protect yourself emotionally. You've learned not to get too excited, not to expect too much, not to trust too quickly. You've trained yourself to anticipate disappointment, just so it wouldn't hurt as much when things didn't work out. But now, that mindset is being challenged. Because you cannot walk through a permanent door with a temporary mindset. You cannot receive something unshakable while expecting it to fall apart. And this is where the internal shift must happen. This door represents more than just an opportunity. It represents alignment. Alignment with what was always meant for you but could not be accessed until now. alignment with a path that does not collapse under pressure, alignment with a future that is not constantly interrupted by setbacks. Think about that for a moment. A door that stays open, a path that remains steady, an opportunity that does not disappear. That is what is being released. And this is why there have been so much resistance leading up to this moment. Because anything that carries permanence threatens everything that thrives on instability. The patterns that kept you stuck cannot survive what is being open. The cycles that repeated themselves over and over again cannot follow you through this door. This is a separation point, a clear distinction between what was and what will be. And not everyone will understand it. Some people will question it. Some people will try to insert themselves into it. Some people may even attempt to recreate the instability you've known before, simply because they are uncomfortable with your shift. But here is what you must remember. What God opens, no one can close. Not their opinions, not their actions, not their intentions. Nothing. Because this door is not dependent on external conditions. It is sustained by divine authority, and the same authority that opens it ensures that it remains open. This is why fear cannot come with you. Doubt cannot come with you. Old expectations cannot come with you. Because this door requires a new version of you, one that trusts what is being given without constantly questioning when it will be taken away. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first, because certainty feels unfamiliar when you've lived in uncertainty for so long. But this is the transformation. This is the moment where you stop preparing for loss and start preparing for stability. This is where you stop bracing yourself for disappointment and start aligning yourself with permanence. The door is not opening to test you. The door is opening to establish you, to place you in something that does not collapse under pressure, to move you into a space where your progress is not constantly interrupted, to align you with something that reflects what was always intended for your life. And once you step through it, everything changes, not just externally but internally, because you begin to realize that what is meant for you does not fight to stay, it remains. And that realization alone will shift how you move, how you think, and how you receive what comes next. So as this door begins to open, do not approach it with hesitation. Do not approach it expecting it to close. Approach it with the understanding that this is different. At this time, it stays. Type "I receive" what remains in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 909 is now activated over your open doors. As this door opens and divine alignment begins to unfold, understand this: every time you choose to support this message, you are helping open doors for others who are still searching in darkness. This is not about a platform. This is about a mission to carry light into places where confusion once lived, to become a river of truth flowing into lives that are on the edge of breakthrough. The word says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And right now, that promise is alive, speaking directly into your moment. If your spirit feels this, if something inside you is saying this matters, then act on it. Sow into this movement through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen. This is not a donation. It is a divine response. And as you give, may every closed place in your life be met with open heavens. Step forward now. Here is a question that quietly lingers in moments like this, even if you don't say it out loud. Why me? Out of all the people, all the lives, all the paths unfolding at this very moment, why is this message finding you? Why does it feel so personal, so direct, so precise, like it was written with your situation in mind? That question matters, because the answer will shift how you see everything that is happening right now. You were not randomly selected. You were aligned. Because not everyone is positioned to receive what is being released. Not everyone is ready to step into a door that no one can close. And that is not about worth. It is about preparation. It is about timing. It is about the internal work that has already been taking place within you, even in seasons where you felt like nothing was happening. Think back to the moments where you felt isolated. The times when you were forced to face things on your own, when support was limited, when understanding was scarce. Those were not empty seasons. Those were refining seasons. Those were the moments where your perspective was being reshaped, where your strength was being built in silence, where your dependence on external validation was slowly being replaced with something deeper. Because the truth is, if this door had opened earlier, you might not have recognized its value. You might have approached it the same way you approached previous opportunities, with hesitation, with doubt, with the expectation that it could disappear at any moment. But now, something inside you has shifted. You have seen enough to know the difference between what is temporary and what is real. You have experienced enough to recognize when something carries weight. That is why you are here now. Because you are no longer the same person you were before. You have been shaped by your experiences, but more importantly, you have been sharpened by them. The disappointments you faced forced you to develop discernment. The delays you endured forced you to build patience. The uncertainty you lived through forced you to become more aware, more observant, more grounded in something beyond surface-level understanding. And all of that preparation leads to this moment. Because stepping into something permanent requires a different level of awareness. It requires you to move differently, to think differently, to respond differently. And you have been learning that, piece by piece, even when you didn't realize it. There is also something else you need to recognize. Not everyone would handle this door the same way. Some people would misuse it. Some would take it for granted. Some would allow fear to distort it. Some would allow outside influence to interfere with it. But you have reached a point where you understand the cost of instability. You understand what it feels like to have things fall apart. You understand the weight of uncertainty. And because of that, you will not treat this lightly. You will recognize its value. You will protect it. You will respect it. And that is part of why you were chosen. Because what is being opened requires stewardship, not just access. It requires someone who will not sabotage it with old habits. Someone who will not question it into collapse. Someone who will not allow external noise to override internal clarity. And you are stepping into that version of yourself now. Even if you don't fully see it yet. Even if you still have moments of doubt. Even if part of you is still adjusting to the idea that something stable, something lasting, something unshakable could actually be meant for you. This is where trust becomes essential. Not just trust in what is being opened, but trust in yourself. Trust that you have grown enough to handle what is coming. Trust that you have learned enough to recognize what matters. Trust that you are no longer operating from the same place you once were. Because the version of you that struggled before is not the version of you stepping forward now. That version had to exist. That version had to go through what it went through. But that version is not the one walking through this door. You are different. More aware. More grounded. More prepared than you give yourself credit for. This is why the timing matters. Because this door is not just about opportunity. It is about alignment between who you are now and what is being released. And that alignment is not accidental. It has been built over time. Through experiences you didn't always understand. Through moments that didn't always make sense. Through situations that felt like setbacks but were actually shaping something within you. So when you ask, why me? Understand this, because you are ready in ways you don't fully realize yet, because you have been prepared in ways you did recognize at the time, because you have reached a point where you can receive something permanent without expecting it to fall apart. And that changes everything. This is not about luck. This is not about coincidence. This is about alignment meeting timing. And you are standing exactly where you need to be. Right before the door opens. Type "I accept my alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 444 is now anchoring stability into your life. There is something you need to understand about everything you've been through. Something that will change the way you see your past completely. None of it was wasted. Not the confusion, not the delays, not the rejection, not even the moments that felt like complete breakdown. Because what felt like survival to you was actually preparation in motion. What felt like loss was qualification. And what felt like being held back was, in reality, you being built for something that required more strength than you had at the time. You didn't just arrive at this moment. You were forged into it. Think about the battles that didn't make sense when you were in them. The situations where you gave your best and still got overlooked. The times where you showed up with sincerity and were met with indifference. The moments where doors closed without explanation, leaving you standing there questioning everything. Your worth, your direction, your purpose. Those weren't just random hardships. Those were filters. Filters that removed what could not go with you into what is being opened now. Because not everything can pass through a permanent door. Some mindsets cannot. Some attachments cannot. Some expectations cannot. And so life had to confront those things in you, not to break you, but to refine you. To show you what needed to fall away before something lasting could be trusted in your hands. Because if nothing had challenged you, nothing would have changed within you. And if nothing had changed within you, you would not be able to hold what is about to be released. This is why your journey looked the way it did. You were not just living. You were being trained. Trained to recognize what is real and what is temporary. Trained to move without constant validation. Trained to stand firm even when things around you were uncertain. And that training did not come easily. There were moments where you felt stretched beyond what you thought you could handle. Moments where the pressure didn't feel like growth. It felt like too much. Moments where you questioned whether any of it had meaning, whether any of it would ever lead somewhere different. But even in those moments, something inside you kept going. Something refused to completely shut down. Something held on to a quiet belief that this wasn't the end. That something was a part of you being prepared. Because qualification doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like endurance. Sometimes it looks like staying when it would have been easier to give up. Sometimes it looks like continuing to believe, even when you didn't have clear evidence that anything was changing. And you did that, even when it wasn't easy, even when it wasn't clear, even when it didn't feel like it was leading anywhere. You stayed, you endured, you adapted, and without realizing it, you were developing the exact qualities needed for what is about to open. Because this next door is not just about access, it is about responsibility. It is about stability. It is about stepping into something that requires consistency, awareness, and strength. And those qualities are not developed overnight. They are built through experience, through challenge, through moments that force you to grow beyond who you used to be. That is why your battles matter. Not because they define you, but because they shape you. They taught you what to accept and what to walk away from. They showed you what drains you and what sustains you. They revealed where you needed boundaries, where you needed clarity, where you needed to stop settling. And all of that becomes essential when something permanent enters your life. Because permanence requires discernment. It requires you to recognize what aligns and what doesn't. It requires you to protect what is valuable without constantly fearing its loss. And those are things you could only learn through experience. This is why not everyone reaches this point at the same time. Because not everyone has run through what you've gone through in the same way. Not everyone has been shaped by the same pressures, the same challenges, the same moments of internal growth. But you have. And that is what makes this moment different for you. Because now, when the door opens, you will not approach it the same way you would have before. You will not take it lightly. You will not overlook its value. You will not treat it as something temporary. You will recognize it for what it is. Something earned through growth. Something aligned through timing. Something secured through preparation. And that changes how you receive it. Because you are no longer trying to prove yourself. You are stepping into something that already acknowledges who you have become. That is the shift. You are not chasing this door. You have been shaped for it. And now, as it begins to open, everything you went through starts to make sense in a way it never did before. Not all at once, but gradually, piece by piece, moment by moment, until you realize that nothing you experienced was random. It was all leading here, to this point, to this opening, to this alignment. So do not look back at your past with frustration. Look at it with understanding. Because those battles did not block you. They built you. They qualified you. They prepared you for something that requires exactly who you are now. And now, you are ready. Type "My battles prepared me" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 515 is now strengthening your foundation. There is a reason why things have felt heavy lately. A reason why your thoughts have been more restless, your emotions more sensitive, your environment more unpredictable. You may have tried to explain it away, telling yourself it's just stress, just timing, just life being life. But deep down, you know something is different. Something is shifting, and not quietly. It feels like tension building beneath the surface, like something is about to break through, but hasn't yet. And that space, that in between, is where resistance often shows up the strongest. Because when something significant is about to open, opposition rarely stays silent. It doesn't always come in obvious ways. It doesn't always look like conflict or obstacle. Sometimes it shows up as distraction, and doubt, as overthinking, as sudden exhaustion that doesn't quite make sense. You may have noticed yourself questioning things you were once clear about, revisiting thoughts you already moved past, feeling pulled in different directions without a clear reason why. That is not random. It is resistance reacting to movement. Because something in your life has already started to shift, even if you cannot fully see it yet. And whenever movement begins, resistance responds. Not because it has power over what is coming, but because it senses change. It senses that something is about to move you beyond the patterns it once relied on. Think about it carefully. Right before something changes, things often feel the most unstable. Right before clarity arrives, confusion tends to increase. Right before a breakthrough, pressure intensifies. And this is exactly where you are. You are not in a place of regression. You are in a place of transition. But transition can feel uncomfortable, especially when you don't yet see the full outcome. It can feel like things are falling apart, when in reality, they are rearranging. It can feel like you are losing control, when in reality, you are being repositioned. And that discomfort is what resistance tries to amplify. Because if you misunderstand the moment, you might react to it incorrectly. You might pull back when you should stay steady. You might doubt when you should trust. You might retreat when you are actually meant to remain present. And that is the strategy behind resistance. Not to stop what is coming, but to disrupt how you respond to it. Because your response matters. The way you interpret this moment shapes how you step into the next one. If you see resistance as a sign that something is wrong, you may hesitate. If you see it as a signal to slow down or give up, you may delay yourself. But if you recognize it for what it is, a reaction to movement, then everything shifts. Because now, instead of questioning whether you are on the right path, you understand that the pressure itself is confirmation that something is happening, that something is close, that something is already in motion, and that awareness changes your posture. You stop reacting emotionally to every shift. You stop internalizing every moment of discomfort. You stop assuming that difficulty means misalignment. And instead, you begin to hold your position. You become steady, grounded, unmoved by temporary fluctuations. Because you understand that what is coming is not determined by how things feel right now. It is determined by what has already been set in motion. And that is where your strength becomes important. Not the kind of strength that pushes harder or forces outcomes, but the kind that remains steady under pressure. The kind that does not panic when things feel uncertain. The kind that trusts that movement is happening, even when it is not fully visible yet. You are being asked to stay present in this moment. Not to rush ahead, not to fall back, but to remain grounded. Because this phase is temporary, this tension is not permanent. This resistance is not stronger than what is being opened. It is simply reacting to it. And soon, it will lose its influence. But until then, your awareness is your advantage. The more you understand what is happening, the less it can affect you. The more you recognize the pattern, the less you are pulled into it. And the more you remain steady, the more clearly you will see the shift when it arrives. Because it will arrive, not in confusion, but in clarity. Not in chaos, but in alignment. And when it does, everything that feels uncertain right now will begin to make sense. So do not let this moment shake you. Do not let temporary resistance convince you that something is wrong. Because what you are feeling is not the end of something. It is the edge of something new. And you are standing right there. Type I stay steady in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 616 is now strengthening your focus and clarity. There is something you must clearly understand as you stand on the edge of this open door. Every door that carries purpose will also attract opposition. Not because the door is weak, but because it is valuable. And anything valuable will always have forces that attempt to delay it, distort it, or distract you from walking through it. This is not meant to create fear in you. It is meant to sharpen your awareness. Because what you do not recognize, you may unknowingly entertain. And what you entertain can influence how you step forward. The enemies of your open door are not always people. In fact, most of the time, they are patterns. Subtle, familiar patterns that have followed you quietly over time. Patterns of doubt that make you question what is clearly meant for you. Patterns of hesitation that cause you to pause when you should move. Patterns of overthinking that complicate what is actually simple. These are not loud forces. They do not announce themselves. They blend into your thinking, your habits, your reactions, until they feel normal. And that is what makes them effective. Because if something feels normal, you stop questioning it. You accept it as part of who you are. You assume it is just how you operate. But as this door begins to open, those patterns cannot go with you. They are not aligned with what is being released. And this is why they may feel stronger right now. Because anything that cannot continue will try to reassert itself before it fades. You may notice old thoughts resurfacing, old fears trying to regain your attention, old insecurities whispering familiar narratives. Not because you are moving backward, but because those patterns recognize that their influence is ending, and they are reacting. There is also another layer you need to be aware of. External influence. Not always intentional, not always direct, but still impactful. People who project their limitations onto your situation. People who speak from their own fears, their own experiences, their own understanding of what is possible. They may not mean harm, but their perspective can still create noise. Noise that makes you second-guess what you were once clear about. Noise that introduces uncertainty where there was confidence. Noise that shifts your focus away from what is being opened and back toward what has already been left behind. And this is where discernment becomes essential. Because not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your consideration. Not every perspective aligns with where you are going. And if you are not careful, you can allow external noise to interfere with internal clarity. That is one of the most common ways doors are delayed, not because they close, but because the person meant to walk through them hesitates. Hesitation is one of the quietest enemies of progress. It does not stop movement completely. It slows it. It creates pauses where there should be steps. It introduces doubt where there should be trust. And over time, those small pauses can feel like distance. This is why clarity matters right now. Because the door that is opening does not require perfection. It requires decisiveness. It requires you to recognize what aligns and move toward it without constantly questioning whether it will remain. Because it will. That has already been declared. But you must move in alignment with that truth. Not in alignment with old patterns. Not in alignment with external noise. Not in alignment with hesitation. Another enemy you must be aware of is familiarity. The pull toward what is known, even when what is known has not served you. Because familiarity feels safe, even when it is limiting. It feels predictable, even when it is restrictive. And as you stand in front of something new, something permanent, something different, there may be a part of you that feels drawn back toward what you understand. Not because it is better, but because it is familiar. And that pull can be subtle. It can show up as reconsidering things you already outgrew, revisiting situations that no longer align, entertaining options that feel comfortable but do not move you forward. And if you are not aware of it, you may mistake familiarity for alignment. But they are not the same. Alignment moves you forward. Familiarity keeps you where you are. And this door requires forward movement. It requires you to trust what is being opened more than what you have known. To choose growth over comfort. To choose clarity over confusion. To choose movement over hesitation. Because the enemies of your open door do not have the power to close it, but they can influence how you approach it. And that is why your awareness matters. The more you recognize these patterns, these influences, these subtle pulls, the less they can affect you. The more you stay grounded in what has been declared, the less you are swayed by what is temporary. And the more you align with what is opening, the more naturally you will move toward it. Because this door is not fragile. It is not uncertain. It is not dependent on perfect conditions. It is established. It is protected. It is waiting. And your role is not to fight everything around you. It is to remain clear within yourself, to recognize what aligns, to release what does not, and to step forward without hesitation when the moment comes, because that moment is closer than you think. Type "I release all misalignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 707 is now clearing your path of distraction. There are moments when change builds slowly, almost unnoticed, like a quiet current moving beneath still water. And then there are moments when everything shifts at once, when what was forming beneath the surface finally breaks through into visibility. May 31st is not a gradual shift. It is a moment of release. A moment where what has been aligning behind the scenes steps forward into your reality. And the reason you have been feeling that tension, that anticipation, that internal stirring is because you are standing right before that shift. This is not just about a date. It is about timing reaching completion. Because everything that has been building in your life, every lesson, every delay, every moment of preparation, is converging into a single point. And that point is where movement begins. Not forced movement, not chaotic movement, but intentional, directed movement that carries clarity with it. The kind of clarity that removes confusion instantly. The kind that makes things make sense without needing constant explanation. That is the shift. You may not see it yet, but something has already been set into motion. Decisions have already been made in the unseen. Alignments have already been formed. Paths have already been cleared. And what May 31st represents is the moment those things begin to manifest in ways you can recognize. That is why this feels different. Because this is not something you are trying to create. This is something you are stepping into. There is a difference. When you are trying to create something, there is pressure. Pressure to figure things out. Pressure to make the right move. Pressure to ensure everything works. But when something has already been set into motion, your role changes. You are no longer forcing outcomes. You are responding to them. You are no longer guessing. You are recognizing. And that recognition will become clearer as this shift unfolds. You will begin to notice things that feel aligned without effort. Opportunities that appear without struggle. Conversations that lead somewhere meaningful without confusion. Moments that carry a sense of certainty you cannot explain, but immediately understand. That is how you will know the shift has begun. It will not feel forced. It will feel natural. And that may surprise you. Because you have grown used to things being difficult. You have adapted to resistance. You have learned to navigate complexity. But this shift is not rooted in complexity. It is rooted in alignment. And alignment simplifies what used to feel complicated. It removes unnecessary obstacles. It brings things into place without constant friction. And most importantly, it reveals direction without requiring endless searching. This is why you must stay aware during this moment. Because the shift does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it shows up quietly but clearly. A subtle change in how things unfold. A noticeable difference in how situations respond to you. A new sense of steadiness where there used to be uncertainty. And if you are present, you will recognize it. But if you are distracted, if you are caught in overthinking, if you are still focused on what has already ended, you may miss the clarity that is being presented. Not the opportunity itself that will remain, but the ease with which you step into it. Because the shift is not just external, it is internal. It is the moment where your perception aligns with what is being opened, where you stop looking at things through the lens of past experiences and begin to see them for what they are now. Zabel. Aligned. This is also where your trust will be tested. Not in a negative way, but in a transformative way. Because when something new begins to unfold, there is often a moment where it feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliarity can create hesitation if you are not grounded. You may find yourself questioning what is actually aligned simply because it does not feel like what you have experienced before. But that is exactly the point. This is not meant to feel like the past. This is meant to move you beyond it. So when things begin to shift, do not compare them to what used to be. Do not measure them against old expectations. Allow them to exist as they are. Clear, direct, uncomplicated. Because that is what alignment looks like. And that is what May 31st begins to activate. A shift that is not based on struggle, but on positioning. A movement that is not driven by pressure, but by timing. A moment where things begin to fall into place, not because you forced them to, but because they were ready. And you are ready. Even if part of you is still adjusting to that truth. The shift does not wait for complete certainty. It begins when alignment is present. And that alignment is already here. So stay aware. Stay grounded. Stay present. Because what begins on May 31st will not look like what came before. And that is exactly why it will work. Type "I embrace the shift" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5310 is now activating divine alignment in your life. As this shift begins to unfold and alignment starts to take shape in your life, understand that every seed you sow becomes part of someone else's awakening. This is how light multiplies. One open door becomes many. When you support this mission through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are not just giving. You are releasing oil into a vessel that carries truth to those still searching for clarity. The word declares, "Those who sow in faith shall reap in abundance," and this moment is your opportunity to respond with intention. If your spirit is stirred, do not delay. Step into this act as a prophetic movement, not a transaction. Use the PayPal link or the QR code on your screen and become part of what God is doing through this message. Let your action echo your faith. Now that the shift has been set into motion, now that the door is no longer a distant idea but an approaching reality, there is something you must clearly understand. This moment requires participation. Not force, not struggle, not overexertion, but intentional alignment. Because even though the door is being opened by divine authority, the step through it is still yours to take. And how you position yourself now will determine how smoothly you move into what has already been prepared. This is not a time to overcomplicate things. In fact, one of the first instructions is simplicity. You must simplify your focus. Because one of the greatest distractions at this stage is mental noise. Overanalyzing every detail. Trying to predict every outcome. Attempting to control every possibility before it even unfolds. That pattern may have helped you feel secure in uncertain times, but it will not serve you here. Because what is opening does not require you to map every step. It requires you to recognize the right one when it appears. And recognition only happens when your mind is clear. So you are being called to quiet the unnecessary thoughts. Not ignore responsibility, but release the need to control what has already been decided. There is a difference. You are not being careless. You are being aligned. The next instruction is awareness. Not passive awareness, but intentional presence. Because as this door begins to open, there will be moments, small at first, but significant, where you are presented with direction. It may come through a conversation, an opportunity, a sudden realization, or even a quiet inner knowing that something feels right. These moments will not always come with loud confirmation. They will feel natural, almost simple, and that simplicity is what many overlook. because you have been conditioned to expect complexity, to assume that something meaningful must be difficult, to believe that clarity must come with effort. But what is aligned often feels straightforward. It makes sense without needing to be forced. It fits without needing to be adjusted. And your ability to recognize that will be crucial. So stay present. Stay attentive. Do not rush past moments that feel right just because they seem too easy. Because ease, in this case, is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of alignment. The next instruction is trust. Not surface-level trust, but grounded trust. Trust in what has been declared. Trust in what you have already felt. Trust in the preparation that has already taken place within you. Because doubt will still try to appear, not as a strong force, but a subtle questioning. Is this really it? Is this too simple? What if it changes? Those thoughts may come, but they do not carry authority. They are echoes of old patterns, not reflections of current reality. And you must learn to recognize the difference. Because if you treat those thoughts as truth, you may hesitate. And hesitation is the one thing that can delay your step forward. Not stop it, but sow it. And this moment is not meant to be slowed. It is meant to be received. Another instruction is detachment from the past. Not forgetting what you've been through, but releasing its influence over your current decisions. Because the past will try to present itself as a reference point. It will say, remember how things didn't work before. Remember how that situation ended. Remember how you felt last time. And while those memories are real, they are not relevant to what is being opened now. Because this is not the same door. This is not the same situation. This is not the same version of you. So do not measure this moment using past outcomes. Allow it to exist independently. Allow it to unfold without comparison. Because comparison will distort clarity. And clarity is what you need most right now. Finally, you are being instructed to move when the moment comes. Not eventually. Not after extended analysis. Not once you feel completely certain. But when alignment is clear. Because waiting for absolute certainty often leads to missed timing. And timing matters here. Not in a rushed or pressured way, but in a responsive way. When something aligns, it is meant to be met with action. Simple. Direct. Without overcomplication. This is how you walk through a door that no one can close. You do not force it open. You do not stand in front of it questioning whether it is real. You recognize it. You trust it. And you step forward. That is your role. And it is enough. Everything else has already been handled. So as this moment unfolds, stay clear. Stay grounded. Stay aligned. Because what is being opened does not require struggle. It requires readiness. And you are ready. Type I move in alignment in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 919 is now guiding your next steps with clarity. There is something waiting on the other side of this door that you have not fully allowed yourself to imagine yet. Not because you lack vision, but because your past experiences have trained you to expect less than what is truly possible. You have learned to be careful with your expectations, to keep them measured, controlled, realistic. And while that may have protected you in uncertain seasons, it has also limited how you perceive what is now being prepared for you. Because what is behind this door does not operate within the limits you have grown used to. It is not just another opportunity. It is not just a slight improvement. It is not just a temporary breakthrough. It is a shift in the quality of your life. A shift in how things flow. A shift in how you experience progress, stability, and clarity. and that shift carries blessings that are not surface level. They are foundational. The first thing you will notice is restoration. Not in a dramatic, overwhelming way, but in a steady, undeniable way. Areas of your life that once felt fragmented will begin to feel whole again. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because what truly matters begins to align. You will start to see things come together in ways that make sense, ways that feel right, ways that no longer require constant effort to maintain. This is the kind of restoration that does not demand your energy to sustain it. It sustains itself, because it is built on alignment, not force. And that alone will feel different. Then comes stability. Real stability. Not the kind that depends on circumstances staying ideal, but the kind that remains even when conditions shift. You will begin to experience a sense of grounding that does not disappear with temporary challenges. A sense of knowing that what you have stepped into is not easily shaken, and that stability will change how you move, how you decide, how you respond to situations around you. Because when something is stable, you stop bracing yourself for its loss. You begin to trust its presence, and that trust creates a new level of peace. Peace that is not based on everything going perfectly, but on the understanding that what is meant for you is not constantly at risk of being taken away. That is one of the most significant blessings behind this door. Not just what you receive, but how secure it feels once you have it. Here is also acceleration, but not the overwhelming kind that creates chaos. This is intentional acceleration, the kind where things that once took excessive time begin to move more naturally, where progress feels consistent instead of interrupted, where effort leads to results without unnecessary delay. You will begin to notice that what once felt like a struggle now feels like movement. Not rushed, not forced, but steady and continuous. And that shift will stand out to you, because you have experienced the opposite. You have experienced stagnation. You have experienced effort without clear progress. You have experienced moments where things felt stuck despite your attempts to move forward. But this will not feel the same, because this movement is aligned. And aligned movement does not resist itself. Another blessing you will encounter is clarity. Clarity in decisions. Clarity in direction. Clarity in understanding what belongs in your life and what does not. And that clarity will reduce confusion in a way that feels almost unfamiliar at first, because you have been used to navigating uncertainty. But now, you will begin to see things more directly, more simply, more accurately, and that clarity will guide you without constant second-guessing. It will allow you to move forward without needing endless reassurance, because you will know, not vaguely, not uncertainly, but clearly, and that clarity will strengthen your confidence in ways that are not dependent on external validation. It will come from within, from alignment, from recognition, from understanding. There is also a level of ease that comes with what is behind this door. Not ease as in absence of effort, but ease as in absence of unnecessary struggle. Things will require action, yes, but they will not require constant resistance. They will not demand that you fight for every step. They will not drain you just to maintain them. Instead, they will respond to your effort in a way that feels balanced, corporeal, sustainable, and that balance is what allows something to last. Because anything that constantly drains you cannot be sustained long-term. But what is aligned supports you as you engage with it. And that is what makes this different. Finally, there is growth. Not forced growth, not reactive growth, but natural expansion. You will find yourself evolving without the same level of pressure that once accompanied change. You will grow because your environment supports it, because your circumstances align with it, because what you have stepped into creates space for it. And that kind of growth feels different. It feels steady. It feels grounded. It feels real. These are the blessings behind the door. Not temporary highs, not unstable opportunities, but foundational shifts that change how you experience your life moving forward. And the most important part is this: these blessings are not being borrowed. They are being established. That means they are not easily taken away. They are not dependent on perfect conditions. They are not fragile. They are built to remain. So as this door opens, you not approach it expecting something fleeting. Approach it understanding that what is waiting is meant to last. And that changes everything. Type "I receive lasting blessings" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now anchoring abundance and stability into your life. There's a truth that must be spoken clearly now, without softening it, without delaying it, without filtering it through comfort. This moment will not wait forever. What is being opened is permanent, yes, but your response to it is time-sensitive. And this is where many people misunderstand how divine opportunities work. They assume that if something is meant for them, it will always remain available in the same way, at the same intensity, at the same level of access. But that is not how alignment operates. Because while the door itself cannot be closed, your position in relation to it can shift. And that shift does not happen dramatically. It happens subtly, through distraction, through delay, through the quiet decision to wait just a little longer, to think just a little more, to hesitate just a little deeper. And before you realize it, the clarity that was once strong begins to fade. The momentum that was once building begins to slow. Not because the opportunity disappeared, but because your alignment with it weakened. This is the warning, not of loss but of misalignment. Because misalignment is rarely loud. It does not announce itself as a mistake. It feels reasonable. It feels justified. It sounds like, "I just need more time." It sounds like, "Let me be sure first." It sounds like, "Maybe later." And those thoughts feel safe, logical, even responsible. But in moments like this, they can quietly create distance between you and what is already ready for you. You must understand this clearly. This is not a moment for delay. This is not a moment for passive observation. This is a moment for awareness and response. Because everything that has led you here hath been preparing you to recognize this exact point. And if you treat it like every other moment, if you respond to it with the same hesitation, the same overanalysis, the same pattern of waiting, you risk repeating what you have already outgrown. And this is where the urgency comes in. Not panic, not pressure, but precision. Because timing is precise. There are moments where alignment is strongest, where clarity is clearest, where movement is most natural. And May 31st marks one of those moments for you. A moment where everything is positioned in a way that supports your step forward. A moment where resistance is losing its influence and alignment is taking its place. But that window of clarity must be honored. It must be recognized. It must be acted upon. Because if ignored, it does not disappear, but it becomes harder to access with the same ease. And ease matters. Because ease is what allows you to move without unnecessary struggle. Ease is what confirms alignment. Ease is what keeps things flowing naturally instead of forcing them into place. So do not overlook this moment. Do not minimize it. Do not treat it as something you can revisit later with the same clarity. Because clarity fades when it is not acted upon. It becomes quieter, less certain, more distant. Not because it is gone, but because it was not acknowledged when it was strongest. And you have worked too hard, grown too much, and come too far to allow that to happen now. This is the moment where you choose differently, where you recognize the pattern of hesitation and break it, where you feel the pull to wait, and instead, you stay present, where you notice the urge to overthink, and instead, you trust what is already clear, because you already know more than you think you do. You have felt the shift. You have recognized the difference. You have sensed that this moment carries weight, and that awareness is not accidental. It is guidance. It is direction. It is your signal to remain engaged, to remain aware, to remain ready to respond when the moment fully presents itself. Because it will. And when it does, it will not require force. It will require recognition. And recognition requires presence. So do not drift away from this moment. Do not allow distractions to pull your attention elsewhere. Do not allow doubt to create unnecessary distance. Stay here. Stay grounded. Stay aware of what is unfolding. Because this is not just another opportunity. This is a defining moment. A moment where your response shapes how you experience what has already been opened. And you are being given the awareness to respond correctly. So take it seriously. Not with fear, but with intention. Not with pressure, but with clarity. Because you are not being warned of loss. You are being guided toward alignment. And alignment, once fully embraced, changes everything. Type "I will not miss this moment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now sealing your focus and divine timing. Now the moment has come where everything that has been spoken, everything that has been building, everything that has been preparing you must be sealed with truth. Not suggestion, not possibility, but declaration. Because there is a difference between hearing about a door and standing in front of it as it opens. And right now, you are no longer preparing for this moment. You are in it. Archangel Michael does not repeat himself without purpose. He does not speak lightly, and he does not declare something unless it has already been established in the spiritual realm. So when his voice rises with authority and says, "I am opening a door no one can close," it is not a future event waiting to happen. It is an active reality already unfolding around you. This is where everything shifts from understanding into embodiment. Because now, it is no longer about what you have been through. It is no longer about what tried to delay you. It is no longer about what resisted you. It is about what is now standing open before you. And this is where your identity must align with your moment. You are not the same person who once stood outside closed doors, waiting, hoping, questioning. You are the one now being called forward. The one being trusted with access. The one being positioned in front of something that cannot be reversed, cannot be withdrawn, cannot be taken away, and that requires a different posture. A posture of certainty. A posture of readiness. A posture that does not shrink back just because the moment feels bigger than what you expected. Because it will feel bigger. It will feel different. It will feel unfamiliar. But that does not mean it is wrong. It means it is new. And new requires courage. Not loud, forceful courage, but steady, grounded willingness to step forward without retreating into what feels safe, but limiting. Because what is safe is not always what is aligned, and what is aligned will not always feel familiar at first, but it will be right, and you will know it. Not through overthinking, not through endless confirmation, but through clarity that settles within you in a way that does not need to be argued with. That is how this moment will meet you. Clear, direct, unmistakable. And when it does, you must respond. Not later. Not after doubt has had time to speak, but in alignment with what you already recognize. Because this is the final instruction. Step forward. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but willingly. Because willingness is what allows movement, and movement is what activates everything that has already been prepared. You are not stepping into something uncertain. You are stepping into something established, something that has already been secured beyond your circumstances, beyond your past, beyond your doubts. And that is why it cannot be closed, because it was never dependent on anything unstable to begin with. It was always rooted in something greater, something final, something unchangeable. So as you stand in this moment, do not look back. Do not second guess. Do not hesitate, because everything behind you has already served its purpose. Everything within you has already been prepared, and everything ahead of you has already been opened. This is your moment to move, to receive, to step into what has been declared over your life. And as Archangel Michael stands in authority, this is the final word. What I have opened before you shall remain. What I have established for you shall not be undone. And what I have aligned in this moment shall carry you forward beyond anything that once tried to hold you back. Step now, and do not look back. Let that settle into you. Let it anchor you. Let it move you. Because this is not just a message. This is activation. This is alignment. This is the beginning of something that will not close behind you. Type "I step forward" now in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now sealing your open door and divine path. As you step through this door and into divine alignment, understand this. Your action today can become the very key that unlocks someone else's breakthrough tomorrow. This mission is not about a channel. It is about souls being reached, chains being broken, and light entering places where darkness once ruled. The Lord declares, those who sow generously will reap generously. And right now, that promise is speaking directly into your moment. I feel led to say this clearly. When you give, you are not losing. You are planting into a harvest that heaven multiplies. If this message has stirred your spirit, do not ignore that prompting. Go to the PayPal link in the description or use the QR code on your screen and release your seed now. Let your giving become a prophetic act that echoes beyond you. Act now and be part of what God is expanding.